Good evening, Garden City. I'd like to call to order a regular city council meeting for Monday, April 8th, 2024 at 7 p.m. First order of business is our opening ceremony, which consists of the national anthem, followed by the Pledge of Allegiance, followed by a moment of silence for those service members who have given their lives for our country. If everyone would please rise. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you. Mr. Smith, if you'll take roll, please.
Mayor Jacobs?
Here.
Mayor Pro Tem Dole?
I'm present.
Councilmember Chericotis?
Here.
Councilmember Schleier?
Here.
Councilmember Earl?
Here.
Councilmember Witt?
Here.
Councilmember Lynch? Here. You have a quorum of 7.
Thank you. Item 4 is the approval of the agenda.
Mayor,
Councilmember Witt.
I make a motion to approve the Monday, April 8th council agenda as presented, excluding item B3.
Support.
Support from Councilmember Lynch. Further comments from the general public? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion passes 7-0. Item 5, we have no recognitions. We do have Senator Dana Polhinke. Nice to see you tonight.
Thank you, Mayor Jacobs, Mayor Pro Tem Dole, and City Council members. Pleased to be here just for a little legislative update since the last time I was here, just to remind any residents that may be in the audience and watching on the live stream. I live in Livonia. I represent a third of Livonia, all of Garden City, all of Canton, all of Inkster, and all of Westland. And in 2023, I'm very proud that my office fielded 4,220 constituent responses. If you need anything from the state, I would call my office at 517-373-7350. I'll repeat that again, 517-373-7350. And if we can't answer your question, we'll point you in the right direction. I was very pleased as well to have 7 of my bills signed into law. In thinking of what I wanted to highlight, schools came to mind. I think Superintendent Fisher does a good job. I think that Garden City Public Schools and, are, like many of our great public schools, hubs of our community, and we want to do the best for them as we can. So I'm pleased to tell you that over the prior year's budget, we were able to give $2.9 million more to Garden City Public Schools than it had received in the past budget. So 2.9 million is good. I hope that the teachers start feeling it in terms of increased pay. I hope that the kids start feeling it, and the parents in terms of programs and all the things that kind of money can be used for. I think I'll start with one thing that we did that I was really proud of and was a campaign promise of mine way back from 2018 is we repealed the retirement or pension tax on seniors. We also expanded the working families tax credit, which some Michigan households were slated to receive an average of $550. About 700,000 Michigan households received that. And it's for people who work but are still struggling a little bit, which is many of us. So we also, one thing I'm very proud of is we repealed drug industry immunity. So now if a pharmaceutical company needs to be sued, they can be sued. So I thought that was important to let you know. I hope that Garden City Public School parents and children are enjoying the free breakfast and lunch. And I hope the breakfast and lunch are nutritious. I've seen at one end, they're having, Eggs Benedict served to them for lunch, and then the other end I've seen chicken nuggets and, a granola bar for breakfast. So if the kids aren't getting a nutritious lunch, then you should contact the school district and talk about switching vendors or getting more the money is there for a nutritious breakfast and lunch. So chicken nuggets and a granola bar for breakfast won't cut it, in my opinion. And we're hoping to continue that. I actually have a bill called Senate Bill 500 that would make free breakfast and lunch permanent forever. I can't think of a better way to direct taxpayer money than to making sure the kids aren't hungry so they can learn, get rid of the stigma, and so on. We passed a lot of bills criminalizing and intimidating election officials, which I didn't ever think would have to be a thing, but it is. So we want to make sure that when our election officials, from the people who sit at the polls, taking the driver's license or whatever all the way up to your city clerks, they need to be free from any intimidation, and now they will be. In the voting line, we now have, we have 9 days of early voting, which if you think of a lifetime of voting, I would always run to try to get to the polls, and if you missed it, you felt bad, but you just missed it. So, having 9 days to go somewhere and vote, being able to register the same day if you put it off, that's a huge deal. The ballot drop boxes, which are completely safe and secure, that's another convenience. So I'm really pleased to report that it's so much easier to vote now. And there was one other thing. Guns. I think it's very important that Garden City residents know that I know most people are responsible gun owners, but you really have to be very vigilant that your guns are locked up away from minors. We did enact a few new gun safety laws. One is universal background check, and these went into effect February 13th of this year. So they are law. So that means we're doing background checks on all handguns, or all firearms, not just handguns. So it'd be long guns as well. We did what's called an ERPO, or a red flag law. This means that if someone in your family is exhibiting behaviors that show they're in a mental health crisis, or they're suicidal, or they're homicidal, you can petition a court in an expedient way to temporarily have those guns removed for that person's safety. And then the last one is the child safe storage. And I'm sad to say, there have been two big stories in Michigan where people were caught up in this. And one is recently some kids, 6 and 5 years old, were at someone's grandparents' house. The guns were not secured, and the 6-year-old shot the 5-year-old. It could have been vice versa, but the child died. And I'm sure the grandparents are absolutely devastated, but they are likely going to jail. So I do need to tell everyone how very important it is. Even if you have your gun in your truck and it's unsecured, and a minor on that property goes into your truck and hurts themselves or someone else, there's gonna be a pretty strong penalty. So I just wanna encourage everyone, I think there are some tax rebates, encourage, maybe you guys can do something about, the police can provide discounted gun safes with the fingerprint, I don't know. But it's just very important that you guys know that this is very serious, so please make sure you secure your guns. And lastly, I'm pleased that the governor's budget recommendation, by the way, the budget is happening now, so we want to encourage Doc and Mayor, get your requests in. I don't want outsized expectations. However, there was a lot of COVID money last time, and I am going to fight for you guys, for Garden City, to get your budget priorities, but there's not going to be as much as last time. I'm just going to be very transparent on that. That being said, once you get me all your priorities, I will definitely fight for Garden City to get something in there. But the governor's budget recommendation for 24-25 has a 5% ongoing statutory revenue sharing for local units of government. We have pathetic revenue sharing in the state of Michigan. It's pathetic. I think it's last in the nation for the amount of money that the state gives cities. The optional amount as opposed to constitutional revenue sharing. So that's going to increase if the budget passes by 5%. There's also going to be a one-time 2% allocation to support public safety. So that would go to, you know, your police, or however you want to allocate that. So hopefully that happens. That's the end of what I thought you might be interested in. Oh, we also have a domestic violence gun ban if one is convicted. You have to be convicted of domestic violence. Your access to guns may go away for up to 8 years. Okay, so that's another thing that people need to understand. Do you have any questions for me?
Anyone from council? Nope.
Thank you.
Thank you very
Okay,
much, Senator.
Great, thank you so much for having me, I appreciate it.
Thank you. Okay, item 7, we have no presentations, no community events. We do have a couple communications, and I'll start. At the last Parks and Rec meeting, I did misspeak on a couple of items. One, the funds that we received for the new gym at Radcliffe, it can be used for the roof at Radcliffe if we so choose. I misstated that. And also at special meetings and special workshops. I incorrectly stated that there wasn't public speaking, but there is. It just varies from board to board and commission, council. We all have just a little slightly different rules of when they speak and when they can't speak, or what they can speak about. So I just wanted to clear up those two comments that I had made at the last Parks and Rec meeting. Next communication is from our new DDHC Community Development Director, Mr. Matt Miller.
Good evening, Mr. Mayor and members of the council. Tonight I am here on behalf of the Garden City DDA with an exciting program that is our military and veteran banner program that will be in the Downtown Development Authority area. It will be a full banner on the streetlights that will depict a picture of the veteran who has served our country. There are a few things I wanted to get out there so that we know that here's a sample of what the banner will look like. It'll be a Garden City probably honors our hometown hero, a picture of the person, and then their dates of service and their who they served under. In order to qualify for the Military and Veteran DDA Banner Program, you have to be either an active duty or were active duty or honorably discharged from the military, and also have a connection to our community. Tomorrow, we're going to have on our website the application that will be out there for you to download and fill out. I do want to specify there are 40 total banners that we'll be able to put out this first year. So I want to make sure that we can accommodate. We're going to accommodate first come, first served basis as they come in for the first 40. If we have enough for next year, then we'll look at funding for another year from the DDA. But it will be a full color banner, 30 by 60, and we need to have them on display from kind of Memorial Day through Veterans Day, so May through November, and you need to get all of your information into us and the application with the picture by May 1st so that we have enough time to get that put in place. We're working with the local vendor, Signorama, who's going to be taking all of the information, putting them on each of the banners, and then we'll get them put up for Memorial Day. If you can't scan in your picture, you can bring that to the clerk's office and bring that to us, and we'll scan it so that we can kind of merge the picture with the application. If you want to send all of it in, if you can scan your picture and the application, you can scan it, you can send it to me at my email, which is matthewm@gardencitym.org. If you have any questions, you can call 734-793-1640. And again, get those in as soon as you can, so that we can accommodate and get these banners up to probably display all of our veterans in the community. All right? Thank you.
Thank you. Great idea.
All right, thank you.
Okay, item 10 is public hearing, and we have one on drinking water state revolving fund draft project plan. I'll call Mr. Alan Cruz from Hennessy Engineering.
Good evening, Mayor and Council. My name is Alan Cruz. I'm from Hennessy Engineers. I'm a municipal group leader and city engineer for Garden City. In 2023, we applied for an SRF state revolving fund grant for various water main improvements, and we were successfully, Garden City was successfully awarded $8 million. That construction is going to occur this year in '24. We're here today to apply for the next round of funding for 2025. EGLE requires council approval to submit the project plan and to provide an informational PowerPoint meeting that touches on certain items for us to move forward with the grant application. So we're going to start on this page. Next slide. This is a quick overview of the points I'm going to touch on. I'm not going to spend a lot of time on each slide. This will be provided to the public, and we can answer questions at the end. I know there's an important basketball game tonight, so I'm going to run through these very quickly. Next slide. There's another one tonight.
Pistons?
So part of this program is There's a combination when we apply, there's a grant forgiveness portion and a low-interest loan portion. We won't know the results until all the communities apply for the grant. The loan is a low-interest loan at 1.875, and overburdened communities are given a higher priority. So some of the various improvements are water main, pump stations, storage tanks, and lead water service replacements. Next slide. This is a quick visual of the lead water replacement programs. Garden City has been constructing replacements for the last 4 or 5 years. So we're applying for the grant portion of this to lessen the burden on the water and sewer fund. Next slide. These are some of the lead water issues that are encountered with the water sampling. Garden City is required to replace at least 5% by Eagle mandated standards. And we currently have a program right now that's called the DSMI, where we're potholing various residences and discovering lead water. So the next phase would be this phase on actually replacing those lead water services. Next slide. Part of this project that we're applying for is a couple water main replacements. Over time, water mains degrade, get deposits, and start to fail. You'll see that a lot during winter. Brad from the DPW knows exactly every single time he has to go out making a repair. The residents, the community is inconvenienced. So we're trying to get ahead of that and replace aging water main that have been experiencing those breaks. Next slide. This is the timeline that we've hit all the marks so far, and today is the public hearing and resolution adoption. Our next step would be the project plan submittal in June. Next slide. So part of this funding is the ARP, American Rescue Plan funding that is a part of this grant. Prior years, Garden City wasn't eligible, but because Garden City is considered an overburdened community, we're bumped up on the priority list. Like the senator said, the money doesn't last forever, so we need to apply as much as we can and take advantage of this status. Several communities like Hamtramck, River Rouge, Melvindale are all applying, and I want to make sure Garden City gets its share. Next slide. The two projects, really 3 projects that we're focusing on are Ford Road between Central and Inkster. There's water main on both sides of the road that have been experiencing breaks. There's an 8-inch and a 12-inch. And also there's a water main on Catherine, I believe that's Merriman to Craig maybe, a little past Craig. But those are the 2 water main projects, 3 water main projects that we're focusing on. The reason why we don't want to put a ton of projects in this project plan is you may be on the hook for funding all that or a large portion of that. There's a certain sweet spot we try to hit. It's between a $6 to $8 million range. Next slide. So the consequences of no action, everyone knows. DPW will repair these costly repairs. The public will be inconvenienced. Eventually, you're going to have to replace the water main, and it's likely going to come out of the water and sewer fund. So there's a lot of aging water main in Garden City. Next slide. So all the projects have the possibility, like I said, to receive funding. Garden City was awarded the $8 million last year. Some of that is a low-interest loan. The lead water replacement rules remain in place, and we're required to replace the 5% So this grant will help out in that effort. And there's a good chance that the entire project will be funded, and that's the purpose of applying for all of it right now. Next slide. This is a summary of the costs, which include design, inspection, grant administration fees. We're conservative with these costs to make sure that we receive adequate funding. We don't want to underbid something and then Garden City has to pay more because of that. So we have good estimates, and we're very good at providing conservative costs in the grant that we're applying for. Next slide. So like I said, the total project includes all the engineering, inspection, and testing, which will be reimbursed through the grant. There's approximately 11,000 customers. We talked about the low interest. So the user costs are summarized here in the event that none of the project gets funded, which is, I think we got a really good chance, but Eagle requires us to show exactly what the costs are per user. Next slide. So the next step is we're asking for council approval to submit the project plan, for Brad to be the authorized representative, and our plan is to submit the project plan in June, with results being the summer of 2024. Next slide. These are just some of the social and environmental impacts that we went over. The positive impacts are new water main, less disruption, new infrastructure. Negative impacts is just like any other construction project. It's an inconvenience for the public, and we understand that, but replacing aging infrastructure is good for the community, it's good for your property values, and it shows that you're being proactive about your system and your services. Next slide. So with that, I can answer any questions.
Council have any questions?
I do.
Councilmember Karafotis.
What qualifies us as an overburdened community?
It's a number of factors, median income, a tax base, several factors like that.
Okay.
But what happened was during COVID, Garden City was never overburdened, but during COVID, it shifted the overburden threshold, and you became an overburdened community, and it allowed us to go after these grants aggressively.
Okay, so you said it's going to cost so much money and that we may be on the hook for millions of dollars if we don't get the grant?
A portion could be under a loan, a low-interest loan. That is a possibility.
And how much?
It depends on how many communities and the way they assess it. But you still have the power to pull the project if you like.
And then you said it would cost per user, so it's $33 for every household per year?
That's correct.
So more on the taxes. And then can we just approve for?
But that is if you get zero loan
Right.
and grant, and if water sewer has to fund that is a projected per user cost, correct?
And
Basically, if you don't do anything, in
why
other
can't we
words.
just approve for you to apply for it and not approve the plan until we know there's money for it?
The plan has to go in with these projects for the grant to be considered. We can't have a blank slate.
Oh, I understand
With
that.
zero
But what I'm saying,
projects.
instead of approving it and saying, we're going to do this whole project, regardless if we get the money or not, why can't we just say, we're only going to do this
Nope.
project if we get the grant?
Didn't you just say that at that point, if it comes back and we don't get the grant money, that we can
Correct.
delay this, halt it, whatever?
Correct.
We're not locked into it. We're just basically saying, go ahead and apply for it.
That is
tonight.
correct. Right now, this is a resolution to submit a project plan. You can decide if you want to pull it or not later on. Yep.
Mayor, so I would be opposed to it if we were locked in. Because there's no guarantee we're gonna get any money. So I just want a 100% guarantee. If we put in for this and we don't get the loan, we do not have to participate, we don't have to spend a dime, right?
That's correct. So when the results come out on, let's say 50% is loan forgiveness, 50% is principal forgiveness, you can make the decision as a council whether to move forward with those projects or not. So you really have nothing to lose because you can still decide. And, you know, it's going to be up to you. Do you want, let's say you're given 50% loan, grant, does the city want to give that up? You know, you can decide that later, but this just authorizes us to move forward with the project plan and these projects. And we've been working, you know, Brad and I have been working to get this project plan together, so.
I understand. I mean, we all, obviously, we all want the improvements for our city, but when we do other grants, we don't do a resolution to say, okay, we're giving you the permission.
Eagle requires the resolution.
Okay, that's what I'm asking.
Yeah.
So they
That's the whole purpose of me being up here tonight, is because Eagle requires this resolution for us to move forward.
You said this is a pretty fast turnaround, too. We apply by June, and we'd know by the summer.
Yeah, by the summer, you'll know.
What the
Yeah.
grant loan ratio is.
Yeah.
And am I mistaken, or did I hear you say there's a good possibility that the grant would cover almost all of it?
There is a possibility, yeah. There's always a possibility. I'll be honest with you, other communities are getting it. I'd hate to see Garden City miss out on it.
Are they getting the full amount? Because this $6 million,
Some of them are.
how much are we putting in for the whole $6 million and hope that that's what we get?
We're putting in for all of it, yeah.
What do most communities get?
Well,
In the past, do we know if they're getting funded at
it's between
50% or?
6 to 8, and sometimes 25% is loan, and 75 is principal forgiveness. It depends on the community and the size.
Smaller communities get more or less?
Less.
All we're doing is approving and turning it in. I have no issue with that at all.
Any other questions, council? Okay, thank you very much. Okay, item 11 is the consent agenda. Wait.
It's a public hearing.
Oh, sorry about that. Anyone from the public wishing to speak on this?
Loveland on Barton Street. $32 for...
33, he said.
33 per resident, special assessment?
No, that's only if we don't get the grant money.
Right.
She's
but
asking how it's get billed. Is it a special assessment?
Oh.
Is that going to be a special assessment for a time period that won't extend 13, 14 years?
Do we know that answer?
If we decide to do it.
Is it for this project, so there's a begin date and an end date? That's my question.
It'll be added to the bill and the ready to surcharge to cover the debt payment. Just in reference to last one.
Can you come up here so everybody hears? Me too.
Brian Marciniak, I'm the city treasurer. So in order to cover those debt payments, those would be assessed through the ready to serve charge, or what we call daily charges to cover that. Just a point of reference from the one that you get, the plan that was approved in the prior year for roughly about the same $8 million, the way that it came back from the state, which you guys have already approved. But just for everybody else to understand, about half of that was given as a full grant. A portion of it was given as debt forgiveness, and then the other part was at a low interest loan. So right now, that will be the plan that we took. It'll be about $15 per year per water service for about 40 years to pay the debt. That's what was.
The question was, if he already stated it would be $33.
But
Is it-
that's if we don't get any money in order to do the program.
I understand. So the question is, how long is that for? Just until that 6 million is paid?
Right, until it's paid. So when they give us financing options, when they give us the SRF loan, you usually get to pick 20, 30, or 40 years in order to pay it off.
So is it $33 regardless of, because if we don't get 100%, we're going to get something, right? We'll get something, or let's just say we get something. We get 50% of it. So to pay off the other 50%, it's going to be the 33. So unless we get 100%, there's going to be to the taxpayer.
Right, so it'd be roughly,
matter what.
say, $16, $17.
But I'm saying no matter what, unless we get 100%, it's going to be money to the residents, yes?
Yes, if we don't have a 100% grant funding, yes, there would be some cost put onto the water bill for those, to cover those payments, yes.
Okay. Any other comments from the public?
Right.
Any other comments from the public? All right, I will close the public hearing. Item 11 is the consent agenda.
Mayor,
Councilmember Witt.
I make a motion to approve the consent agenda items A 1 through 4 as presented.
Support.
Support from Councilmember Squires. Comment from the table? From the public? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion passes 7-0. Action items. Item number 1. We just had the public hearing on the Drinking Water State Revolving Fund Draft Project Plan.
Mayor,
Councilmember Karafotis.
would this is not until 25? Or would it start this year? We get the money,
It would be, yeah, it's got to be,
that's what I'm saying, so if we don't get the full thing, it would go on the bills this year, like the winter taxes?
2025. So it'd be on bill for next year, I believe. Okay, motion on, is there a motion?
Mayor,
Councilmember Lynch.
I move to adopt the resolution for a final project planning document for water system improvements and designating an authorized project representative.
Support.
Support from Councilmember Witt. Further discussion from table? From the public?
Mayor,
Okay.
can we just add something in there that says that if we don't get the funding that we need, that this can be pulled?
I think it's already in there, right? That's what Mr. Cruz said.
It's in there that,
Can't do it, or?
where does it say?
That's inherent in it. You don't need that part of the resolution.
Right.
Our city has the power to pull anything.
So we already have the power to do that.
So he gets partial of the grant and then it comes before us again?
Yes.
Okay.
Okay, all in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Opposed. Motion passes 6-1. Okay, item 2 is the Michigan State Housing Development Authority Housing Readiness Grant, and that is Mr. Miller.
Good evening again, Mr. Mayor and members of the council. Tonight, I'm before you regarding a MISTA Housing Readiness Grant. As you know, I ended as the clerk on February 1st, and then I had a short leave of absence, and then I'm back. But during that time, Garden City wasn't far from me because the state released the requirements for a grant, and I applied for the grant and got that during my leave. And so part of that was to write a narrative that would meet the requirements of the grant, and to then, of course, file with MISTA all the requirements that the city needs to do in order to be in their system for grants. So all of that was kind of taken care of in order to get to this point so far. But we were approved for a housing readiness grant. It's a total of $50,000, $45,000 is a grant, $5,000 is a match. But part of it, the main focus of the grant is to look at housing readiness that is in our master plan. So for us to look at the housing section of the master plan, to look towards the future to see how we could possibly look at having different housing types, increased density, also more housing in the downtown, those things that our master plan kind of doesn't talk about, or we need to make a review and have the entire community give a new look and new focus on that for the master plan. The Planning Commission, of course, has been looking at the master plan for the 5-year review. I think this kind of hits at a good time because we can actually get funding for a good portion of that review, and it will cover that section for the master plan. But I did want to, again, we want to look at, Garden City can't grow anymore. Our boundaries are defined, so we need to look at how we can grow smarter and maybe differently as we go forward. The state has identified kind of a housing crisis because at some point, sprawl has to stop. We just can't keep building further and further out. We're a built-out community, but we have the infrastructure, we have the roads, we have the schools in place. All of that, I think, is good for our city, and also it'll be good to look at this increasing our housing type. One of the things that they were talking about specifically in the grant was about kind of eco housing, elderly care housing. We don't kind of permit that, and so as our population ages, grandma's moving in, those kinds of things, maybe it would be another option that people would be able to look to do, and it would be permitted, and we would really kind of open the door to have increased housing types in the community. So that's kind of why I wrote it, because I thought it'd be a good opportunity for the city, and also, of course, it's always good to get kind of money from the state to help with kind of the state initiatives, but there also are initiatives too in the city to provide good housing for our community. So what I'm asking tonight is to recommend that we accept the grant and then also approve me as the signer to sign all the documents that are necessary for MISTA. So with that, I'll be happy to answer any questions.
Any questions? Mayor Pro Tem.
I just have one. So the $5,000 match, that will be coming out of city funds and not DDA?
Correct. It's coming from contractual services. So, and I haven't done my budget yet. It's coming on the 29th, but I didn't include that in that as a budget line item. So,
thank you.
Any other questions? Thank you.
Great, thank you.
Okay, motion is in order.
Mayor,
Councilmember Witt.
I make a motion to accept a grant from MSHDA in the amount of $45,000 with a $5,000 match for a total of $50,000 for a housing readiness grant, and authorize Matthew Miller, Community Development Director, to sign on behalf of the city.
Support.
Support from Councilmember Squires. Further discussion from the table. From the public. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion passes 7-0. Okay, item 4 is our fiscal year 24-25 capital improvement plan to call for a public hearing. Mayor Pro Tem Dole.
Move to consider a fiscal year 2024-25 proposed 5-year capital improvement plan, and to call a public hearing for Monday, May 6th, 2024 at 7 p.m.
Support.
Support from Councilmember Lynch. Further discussion from the table? From the public? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion passes 7-0. Okay, item 12 is other business, or lighting assessment. I believe that was brought up by a couple council members. If anyone would like to start off on that.
I don't know if the city manager wants to talk about first. I know he sent out some emails this week about street lighting. It doesn't matter? No. Okay. I'll go ahead. The lighting assessment's been explained to us many times. We were told in November 23 that we need to pass it that night because it had already gone on our tax bill. Our mayor stated then that we could revisit it and possibly amend it if we found out other information, like how other cities did it and how it was billed. When we passed it, it was said that it included the actual light bill, but I think now it included the light bill and improvements, but it doesn't really include the improvements. Is that correct?
Historically, it was to pay the light bill. It was not, as the report says this weekend.
Okay, so it doesn't include changing out of the old streetlights to energy-efficient LEDs.
No, it could, as we saw in the report. It could include all those things, but that was never the original intent.
Okay.
Yes, correct.
So I recently asked many times how many lights we have in our city and how many have been changed out. Our city manager said that that wasn't information in his resources, so he tried to contact DTE several times, and finally he told me that DTE said that they had a computer crash and that this information wasn't available. But a few weeks ago, with a different DTE contact, Councilwoman Dole was able to find out the information that we have 1,342 lights, and of those, only 575 are LED, and they have been converted since 2011. Most of them were converted during our last DTE grant with our previous city manager. And if all of those remaining lights, the 1,300, were changed, there'd be huge rebates available from DTE. When we got the previous grant and the lights did get changed, our previous city manager said we saw a huge decrease in the cost of usage, and it gave the city a pretty quick return on investment. It wasn't something that was years, like the very next light bill was decreased a lot. I've also researched and contacted a few other cities in our surrounding area that got grants from SEMCOG. The city of Ann Arbor got theirs last March, and they finished it 3 weeks ago. So in 1 year, all the streetlights in Ann Arbor changed with grant money, no money from the residents. I also talked to the engineer in Monroe. He just recently got the SEMCOG grant. They're a similar community with only 20,000 people. He said they just got the grant and they're waiting funding, and everything in Monroe is going to be changed out in 4 to 6 months. So all of their lights are getting changed out with no money from their residents and all grant money. So there's lots of discounts, rebates from DTE, savings on our regular light bill, and several grants available from MDOT, the Public Lighting Authority, the Department of Transportation, the Department of Energy, DTE, and SEMCOG. So in November, our finance director told us that the bill for our lights have increased 37% in the last 5 years. Well, they're increasing, so we need to do something to decrease them. So we've had this assessment since 2011. It doesn't seem like we're doing much to change it. I know it's only $30-some, but most assessments, I know they can last up to 30 years, but ours is already going on 12. How much longer are we going to tax our residents and say they should pay our bills? When this first came into effect, it was because our city was in dire straits. We said we are in bad financial shape, and to keep the lights on, we need to have our residents pay for it. But now we keep saying we're in good financial shape. So as a council person, my opinion is that we take this off and that we amend it and say we're going to come up with some better ideas. Like, we're going to get a grant that if we get all the lights changed, it's going to decrease the bill. So we won't have that much. And I know the questions are, it's $350,000 back into our budget, but we can certainly find $350,000. There's many different ways to find that money. There's lots of ways to do that. So that's my opinion, and I think that's a lot of residents' opinions also, that we take this off and we find a way not to charge them for it, and we get a grant for our lights and we change them so we start saving more money.
I'm good with trying to find a grant. My question would be, if we take it off the bills, the $30 a year, what are we cutting from our budget for $350,000? Because that's $350 every year.
I get it.
So that's $1 million every 3 years coming out of the budget, which...
I get it. There's lots of things in our budget. We put in our budget last year to hire our wonderful new community development director for $235,000. We got the DDA to pay 70 of that. That's $70,000 right there. We don't have a Parks and Rec director for $95,000 or $90,000. We haven't had that for a couple of years. There's some money in the budget. We don't have a communications director that was making $90,000. There's some more money in the budget. We're spending a lot of money on Radcliffe right now, things that aren't covered by the grant. We're not going to be spending that money next year. It's $40,000 on drywall for the card room, or $5,300 for electric for the card room. We're not going to be spending that next year. If we can find money for that stuff, we should be able to find money for our residents to take it off their tax bill. This water thing doesn't go through, that's another $30. We want the bond for the parks to go through. That's for a homeowner like me that's only been in their house for 5 years. That's going to be $300 on my tax bill. So it's a lot of money that adds up. A lot of money that adds up, and I think we need to look for better ways to get that money.
Mayor, if I could.
Councilmember Earl.
when I voted no to this, my reasoning is this. The city takes taxes to perform services. One of the services is, like, in my opinion, you can't pick and choose, this service we're gonna do, this service we're gonna charge extra for. You know, it's like supersizing a meal, right? That's why I voted no to it. I think, I understand $350,000 that come out of the budget. It's gotta come from somewhere. That's why I voted no to it, because I think that's part of the
Duty
way
of
you're
the
supposed to do your business. The taxes are collected, and you perform a service to the citizens. And however that goes, you can't use, you can't use the rainy day fund for that. It has to come out of the general funds, and I'm willing to look at it as I was before. That was my opinion. That's why I voted no, and that's why I still think you collect taxes, you take all the money you collect, and you cover all the city services. And if there's one thing you can't cover, you can't cover. And I understand that that's not going to be an easy decision, but that's my opinion.
Okay. Any other comments?
I mean, we talked about it before. Have we done anything since that meeting in November when we said, can you find new ways? I mean, you said, okay, let's look at some other ways. That was in November, now it's April. Did we check with other cities to find out what they're doing? Did we look for grants yet? I mean, there's a lot of grants available, a lot.
As far as I know, they've been looking. Obviously, Mr. Miller just got a grant for the housing project. So I'm sure we're all looking. Mr. Marciniak, I believe our treasurer looks. Mr. Smith looks for grants.
Well, the SEMCOG grant is out there, available for us to apply.
Okay. Did you bring it to anybody?
The
Maybe
SEMCOG
they
grant?
didn't see it, or,
I can get it,
What?
absolutely.
okay.
I mean, I think I brought that up the last time about the SEMCOG grant. Can I make a motion that we remove that from the, or can we make an amendment that we,
Mayor?
Can we,
To this pay.
Okay, Mayor?
Councilmember
Before
Lynch?
you make the motion, when is our next budget meeting?
A month from now? 4 weeks?
29th?
In a month.
I have a problem doing it tonight because we haven't seen the final budget. And if they're going to cut $350,000 out of the budget, I want to see the budget presented to us with the $350,000 taken out. I don't want us to hinder things because we won't be able to spend all the beautiful things that the directors said at our last budget meeting. We won't be able to do any of those things.
we didn't even get numbers for those things.
It doesn't matter. We won't be able to do them because we have to cut the money we have right now. We have to cut $350,000. I personally would like to see that it's cut and where it's cut at so that we can say, yes, this is a doable thing, or maybe we can't do it this year, but it can be done next year with prior planning in it and a grant already in hand and whatever else needs to be done. I just don't like the idea of just voting on it tonight and not seeing the budget. We don't have the budget yet, so
I agree, but I think when we have our budget meetings, they need to be more detailed. We have 3 budget meetings so far and didn't get any numbers unless we asked, hey, how much was this? How much was this? It's just very superficial when we have the budget meetings. And having a grant in hand has nothing to do. He already said it's covering the light bill. It's not about getting a grant. We need to get the grant so we can start saving money by getting the lights changed. But right now, the money that we're collecting is only being paid towards the bill. So the question is, do we think we should be paying the bill, or do we think our citizens should be paying the bill, regardless of where it's getting paid from, our budget or not in our budget?
and that's fine, but what if out of the $350,000 that we're going to be short, we have to cut 2 employees? Because employees is where the biggest amount of money is spent. And so if they can't figure out where else to cut it from, which is why I'm saying we need to be able to see that budget. I personally don't want to cut any employees. I'd rather see it cut from other areas. But without having the budget, the papers in hand, we don't know where they're going to cut it from. That's all I'm saying.
Are we not seeing the budget numbers until that final meeting when we're supposed to approve it?
I just asked what our next
Well,
I'm just
budget
saying,
meeting is.
no, my question is, normally we get the budget and we say, here's the budget, and then we're going to vote, we're going to approve it or not. So maybe it needs to be done prior to that, so we can say, okay, here's the budget, here's the whole budget that we have, where can we cut out? I mean, we find money for these projects that aren't in our budget all the time. I don't recall the card room being in our budget, or maybe it's under capital improvements or, Parks and Rec or whatever, but there's lots of things that aren't line itemed that we spend money on that we don't approve, a lot of things.
Well, card room and Radcliffe stuff
It's all grant money.
that's all grant money.
It's not, the card room is not grant money.
Most of it's grant money, yes.
The card room is not listed in grant money.
Most of
Fixing the electricity is not, fixing drywall is not listed on that grant.
We did receive from DTE, as the council had seen already, it was $350,000 to change out 1,300 lights, and it was a return of 4 years and 7 months. So you're looking at the council putting up $350,000 right now to hope 4 years and 7 months from now that we can get some of that money back. That was the
No, what I
paperwork that was given out by DTE.
What I said is get a grant to change out.
Oh, no, without a doubt.
I didn't say for us. to
No, I
do it.
agree.
I said get a grant.
But just so people think that that's the return, is 4 years and 7 months, is according to DTE, if we change out the lights.
Well, if it's going up 37% in 5 years, that 4 years is worth it if it's going to come down.
If in 4 years from now, the technology they put in today is beneficial 4 years and 7 months from now,
Well,
because
if
it's
it's
not always, 5 years from now, there might be a different technology that changes everything again.
So all these other cities are doing it because they're getting a lower bill. You can't say, well, we're not going to do this because we're only going to get a lower bill for 4 years
No.
or 6 months.
Didn't say that. We'll look to see what the other cities have done, but oftentimes it looks like one thing and it turns out to be something totally different.
We
So
said we would look into it in November, now it's April.
years ago, DTE, it was a giveaway. When they did all the LED programs, then DTE realized that they're not making any money off LED lights. So the process has changed drastically. So things from the past, not this year, Councilwoman, I'm saying, when we say, well, look what we did in the past, that's because they were giving it away like candy. DTE doesn't do that anymore. That's why changing LED, why is it going to take 4.5 years to make back? Well, because they need to keep making money. DTE isn't in the business of
What I'm
lowering their
saying
bills
is,
anymore.
there's other cities that just got a grant, got
I know.
all of it changed, and saw a return right away. Their bills were lower that next
Oh,
month.
if it's free money, yes, absolutely.
Could we possibly add in maybe a workshop or two for the budget that's not already scheduled?
We have another workshop coming up. We know we're not expecting, we expect a tight budget for this year. We're doing a 2-year budget. I believe that was explained to the council. So there is not a lot of wish list hope. We've got a drastic increase in healthcare this next year that we're going to have to deal with. So, I mean, I agree with Councilwoman, as we say, if we're going to cut $350,000 right now, it might be something that we just hold off and just make sure what we're cutting from, because I don't think that's just a...
That's all I'm saying. I want to see the budget before we say we have to do it this year.
I don't think the first place should always be, though, to look at cutting employees, because I think that there's a lot of other places that we can cut our budget other than
Absolutely.
employees.
What's council's wish?
So discuss it at the next budget meeting with details instead of just an overview?
Will the numbers be ready?
Yeah.
That's what I'm asking.
But it just doesn't change much, correct? Yeah, that's what it's all about, those numbers at the end.
But I'm saying we'll have those at the next meeting.
Yes,
Okay.
yeah.
Okay.
I'm okay with that.
Okay.
Can I ask, when is the budget due?
We have the dates by charter, is it?
June 1st.
Probably at least a weekend out, or a weekend out, or 10 days before the 19th of April or so. They'll have a finalized budget come out, so, that's where we're at.
When are we expected to vote in a finalized
End
budget?
of the month,
The end of April,
end of the month, yes.
but we're not having
Or
a
that's not
budget
the
meeting
final
until
vote,
April
no,
29th?
that's the workshop. The workshop is in a few weeks. We have a lot of time to go through the budget at this point. So we have a workshop at the end of the month, but a final vote by the council, I believe, is in May, correct? May 20th. So another month and a half until we...
So 3
have a
weeks
final.
after this next budget meeting, we have to have an unapproved budget.
Yes. There's not a lot of, it's going to be pretty easy and pretty direct.
Okay. All right, item 13, public comment. For non-agenda items only, 3-minute time limit. And I have Dave Harvey.
Thank you, Mayor Council. Dave Harvey, Garden City Retiree Association, retiree and former city manager. Behind me tonight is decades and decades of public service to this city. It's also years and years of collaboration, cooperation, negotiation, wage cuts, benefit cuts that led to your fiscal situation today, which relatively speaking, compared to many years and the years that I was here, is in excellent condition. Many still have the scars, both mentally and physically, for that service, although none would regret working here, because we knew going forward that our retirement was secure, our benefits were secure for our retirement. That's changed. We've now been told very disrespectfully and unceremoniously, I might say, that our contracts are null and void. Our contracts are being changed. And now we have a lot of uncertainty going forward for that service we gave the city. What has changed? Mayor, 2016, you supported us. Thank you very much. 2016, you had our backs, and we appreciated that when the state of Michigan tried to change our benefits. Councilmember Lynch, when you were mayor, and you and I worked collaboratively and cooperatively with the unions in this city to get us through some of the worst financial times we've ever seen in this city to date. And we set the foundation and the basis for this fiscal prosperity that you have today. So we ask you to reconsider the moves that have been made by this city manager. We've also been told that our deductibles can be raised at any time because our contracts are silent on that particular issue. We would argue that point and say they're not. There has never been a time that there was a misunderstanding between labor and unions, between labor and council, that our contracts are not lifetime. There supposedly is a Supreme Court decision out there against one community. That's not Garden City. We always knew when we negotiated these contracts, they were for life. It may not have had a specific language to it, but we knew. There was never, ever a misunderstanding for that. And we set the stage for you. We set the stage in those years in 2000 when this city was struggling financially. We made the very difficult decisions about cutting retiree health care. In 2032, you're going to see the return on that retiree health care decision we made. As regrettable as it was, we needed to sustain the city as it is and try to move forward. And we did just that. That took cooperation, that took collaboration. And that's something we've always had in this community. And that should not be lost on the retirees. They're the ones that did it. They did it behind me. They did that collaboration and cooperation. We ask for that same with you now and to restore our contracts. And I'm going to ask tonight for city and council to state your intent tonight under your comments. We would like to know where you stand so we can move forward from here. We would not like to move forward in any other direction other than hopefully this would end. We could go back to our retirements, enjoy those retirements that we so earned. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Mr. Harvey. Any other public comments? Okay, any other public comments?
Good evening, Mr. Mayor, Council. Brendan MacArthur, 31734 Cambridge. To start off, Mr. Mayor, I appreciate you clarifying some of your comments earlier in the night from the last Parks and Rec meeting. I appreciate that. But I still don't feel like residents are getting the full transparency here. It was stated that we didn't know about issues with the Radcliffe roof until now, due to an ice storm this past winter. A FOIA request showed the roof inspection from September of 2023 showing the roof was failing miserably. I'm not sure why we didn't act on it then. And I'm also not sure why we didn't get it looked at when we purchased the building and put that in our request to the county. When you purchase a home, you get an inspection done. I would imagine when a city purchases a big building like that, you want to see what you can't see to the eye. You don't know what's inside. You don't know what the roof is like. You don't know the foundation. You know, there's so much to it. I think that's a huge mistake. that taxpayers are going to have to pay for now. And I still oppose using any money from this parks bond if it passes on the Radcliffe Center. We have that money there for the Radcliffe Center. We still haven't seen a budget despite multiple requests. That's extremely concerning. Why should we, the taxpayers, say, sure, here's another $9 million, when we're not even sure we can trust you with the $6 million you got from the county? So I just ask that we proceed cautiously with how we want to handle the Radcliffe situation, and we're responsible. One of the most common things I hear from residents is taxes, especially the older residents, and it's sad, to see that they're scared of what's going to happen if their taxes keep going up. And I can't imagine living like that, so I really feel for them. So we should be very cautious with how we're spending. I'd also like to express my support for the retirees. As a union president, I understand the importance of those contracts and what they fought for and they worked so hard for, and I hope especially you, Mr. Mayor, as a union guy yourself, can also respect that and stand up for them tonight. Thank you.
Thank you. Further public comments?
I feel like I should be on the payroll. Article 6, Garden City Charter, submission of budget. On or before the first day of April of each year, the manager shall submit to council at a regular council meeting a budget for the ensuing fiscal year and accompanying message. In addition to that comment, I want to add that on January 17th, 2019, $30,501 was spent from the city on Manor Park lighting. And I also want to point out that at the last council meeting, all of you up there voted for a bond without, a park bond without the budget being finalized yet. So I find that very interesting. But mostly I want to talk about the 1.5 mil increase that was hiked on all the residents during COVID, 5/4/20. Unprecedented times, the city manager said. Everybody is out of work, our businesses were closed down, everybody was wearing a mask and holed up in their homes, and it was indeed unprecedented times. And you felt the need to take 1.5 mils from the citizens of this town. And it's now 2024, and it's still on our tax bill. You said it could be decreased, easily decreased, once we got through these unprecedented times. Been to the grocery store lately? I think all of us have been to the grocery store. Costs are going up on everything. I'm very disappointed that I can't take you people for your word. The lighting assessment was going to go away. The 1.5 was going to go away. You took away our retirees' benefits they had. I feel like a retiree here. I've lived here 45 years. My home and my business is here. I've contributed a lot to this community, a whole lot of volunteer time. And you people are not good to your word. I'm asking for you to review your old minutes, Jay Lee and Pat, on the lighting. There's a 3-hour meeting, and thank you to Stacy and Brian for speaking up today and at least discussing so we can hear your thoughts, because I'm tired of feeling unrepresented in our community. Thank you.
Thank you. Any other comments?
My name's Linda Skorup, and I live in Garden City, and I agree with everything Opal said, and I think that it was very unfair for that increase during COVID. Everybody goes COVID, and they think they can take advantage of it. Well, I'm sick and tired of being taken advantage of as a citizen and a taxpayer of this community. And I agree with her that the majority of us cannot take the word of anybody on this council, or the majority partial. I sent out a letter over a month ago to 7 people I'm looking at right now, two of the council people, let me put it that way, I had already spoke with earlier. Out of the 7, including the city manager and the mayor, I only got one response, and that was from J. Lee Lynch. And it had to do with shed not being on rat walls. If you sell your house, I was under the impression that it had to be either removed or you had to put it on a rat wall. Well, the building division says, oh, no, that's not true. If you were a rat problem, then we have to address it. So what you said, J. Lee, was that, yes, it has to be up to code. Well, no, there is no code anymore, not in Garden City.
Yeah.
So I'm really upset with that, and I'm upset with the fact that those of you, besides J. Lee, that never responded to me, I think that's really sad, that you're there for us, and you don't even give me the courtesy of saying, you know, I'm not really sure, I'm going to give it to somebody else. She was the only one that responded of the 7 that I sent that email to. You represent the city, and yet you can't even communicate with us when we have a question. My other thing has to do with the road project. Our street was done 4 years ago. We never had ponding or anything else in our street. Our streets are flooded now every time it rains. The city contractors damaged 2 squares whenever they put in the approach. I've been fighting for this. Nobody seems to give a crap in this city. If DTE comes out and ruins my property, city goes, well, I'll contact DTE because you shouldn't have to go through that. The city ruins my property and it's okay. I want to know, what does a citizen have to do to get repairs done that the city contractors have ruined? I shouldn't have to go to Bucelli and talk to them. I didn't hire them, the city did. And there's another lady on our block has the same issues. Nobody seems to care about this, you know, what's done to their property. Where that sewer line has been, the grass does not grow. You can go from one end to Moeller all the way up to Merriman, and you have a straight line where the grass doesn't grow. Nobody seems to know why. Is it hazardous? We don't know.
Okay.
I mean, I don't know how much topsoil and grass seed I put down on my lawn,
That's time.
and I'm not getting reimbursed, and I'm tired of that.
Can you give your address to the clerk? And we will get somebody,
Yeah, I've heard that before, too.
okay?
I've been here, it's different council meetings, too, and I've talked to Brad directly. I talked to Bucelli directly, and nobody cares.
Any other comments? Okay, city managers report.
I have nothing tonight, Mayor, except just to announce once again, there was a lot of misinformation that was stated out there that appeared to be fact, but was absolutely far from the fact. So just for anybody watching, I just, although I'm not going to dispute, because this is just comment period, a lot of things were said were extremely not true. Thank you.
Mr. Smith.
Nothing tonight.
Councilmember Earl.
Yes, Mayor. Couple things. Number one, I've been looking through my email, so either I didn't get it, we've had problems with this system, which I've complained about before. I've been through it. I just asked Councilwoman Karafotis when it was, and when she told me, I have no email, so somehow or another, I didn't get it. But that being said, the fun stuff first, April 26th and 27th and 28th at the high school. Please come out and support the high school theater program for a Little Shop of Horrors. And I can tell you as a retiree, and I've spoken to, I call him lieutenant because he got me written up at my job when he was a lieutenant. He didn't do it. I was just helping him out. But when I retired, the county took all my health care away from me. I just went to get a prescription the other day, and they want $700 for my prescription for a month after losing $1,000 a month and my health care. So I fully understand it. From what I understand, this council has no intention of changing anything. The next council takes over in November. I don't know what the makeup's going to be or who's going to be on it, but this council has been quite clear that we don't want any changes. I can go into the whole history of why Lansing and the federal government decided that they thought it would be a good idea to take healthcare away from people. But what they're going to do is bankrupt citizens and bankrupt communities with the decisions they made. So, you know, I wish you all future luck. I won't be here, but I can't imagine that they're going to touch it. I would hope they won't touch it, but I can just speak from experience as to what it does to a retiree and their finances. And that's all. Thank you.
Thank you. Councilmember Karafotis.
First off, about the retirees, I totally back you, and I think the city does need to keep our promises that we made to you that you would have these benefits and we wouldn't change them. I think one of the concerns from the retirees is they've been told that things are going to change. So they need to be told that they aren't by council. So I think that's something that we need to decide and let them know. But I'm backing you. I think you deserve to have them because we told you you should have them, and you were dedicated employees to our city, and we should stick to our word. The other thing I wanted to know is, did we set the date for the meeting? Matt referenced it today with the Planning Commission, the DDA, and the Building Department about the master plan.
Not yet.
What's the holdup?
Well, Mr. Miller was gone for 5 weeks. He just got back about 2 weeks ago and has been working on the grant and some other things. So as soon as he's set and comfortable, he's just getting his office back together. So.
When are we getting the results for the fire department audit? I thought we were supposed to get it a couple meetings ago.
We have a moon worshiper that went to Ohio tonight. So next meeting, for sure. I have a pre-draft already at this point. That's the only reason it wasn't done tonight.
And then I just want to clarify something that a resident said about not having a inspection. We had an inspection, I thought, on Radcliffe when we got the building.
We had, we walked up on the roof right from the start, and we were told at that point it's a 3 to 5 year approximately itself. There's no question a flat roof in Michigan is going to always have some issues. You can walk through the building right now. There's no issues walking through the building as we speak. It's an image that people are putting out there that this roof is crashing. It is not at this moment. We had $500,000 put in the grant to touch up the membrane. The issue may be if we want to replace the entire roof, it's going to cost more than $500,000. So as I've said many times before, we're waiting right now to see what the cost is of the gymnasium, what the cost is of the entrance, and what the cost is of the roof, so that we can look to say, how smaller of a gym do we want to build? Right now, the gym that we're building is a competitive gym with about 2 to 3 rows of parents' bleachers at max. So it's basically just a gym. If we're going to reduce that size to make sure that we don't touch anything from our budget towards the roof, you're going to have a smaller gym, at this point. So the question, though, when you get down to it, is this building, in the end, we talk about Livonia spent about $23 million on a gym. We know Westland spent about $3 million on their playground. In the end, when this building is done, we're looking at potentially, and the reason we put $750 into the parks bond was just as a safety backup that we have that money. We have money in reserve, so I would be glad to suggest to the council that that goes towards the one-time cost. But if it's an extra $500,000 or $750,000 to put towards the roof, you will now have an 80,000 square foot building with 14 acres with an entirely new additional gym, entrance coming in, all those rooms redone, and a 30 to 40 year roof for a cost to the city for about $750,000. That's got to be one of the greatest purchases in the history of the world. So the fact that people are saying not a dime from tax money can be put into our rec center, I'm a little perplexed by that. For the fact that what is wrong with, well, we have grant money, but we have grant money that was designed for specific things. But if we want to make the gym smaller, a 50 to 70, 100-year-old gym, because that's how long it's going to be there, I think the first day everyone's going to say, we probably should have went bigger. But we didn't want to touch anything in tax money to make sure that we make this proper. I think is a discussion that we should have of how far we want to go with it. But the issue right now is moot for the fact that we don't have the final numbers on the gymnasium. We're going through that now with collaborative, as council knows. We're waiting for the final numbers for the roof. Do we just go with a membrane, or is it all removed fully to up to $2 million replacement? So there's still that piece of information out there that we're waiting on that we could bring to the council with an educated decision rather than just do it or get it done before. this is not new to us. So any comments that are made tonight that says it's a surprise we found out that the roof was a problem, but shockingly we have a report, of course we have a report. We knew there were issues before, but it was only when we had that big storm that froze up the pipes, that wouldn't let water leave the roof became a swimming pool, water will find its openings. That's not traditional. The pipes aren't normally filled with slush, frozen. So you walk in there now with a rainstorm, there's not big issues throughout that building. You know, there might be a couple of spots, but that's not unusual. We did buy the school from a college that was using it as a college the day before we purchased it. So it's not a question of going into a warehouse that's been empty for 10 years. I mean, this is all good juju across the board, this entire project. So let us get the final numbers to bring to the council, and if we could tuck it all under the $6 million, a full roof or half a roof, or maybe just another membrane on top, I mean, we'll try to make that decision. But the fact that people are quick to say not a dime should be put into our recreation center, I'm not quite understanding
Okay,
that.
well,
So,
Please, you guys had a chance to talk.
so my question was, do we have the inspection? You said it was walked by. Do we have a company come out and inspect it when we bought it?
no, not at the time we actually bought a full detailed inspection written out, no.
Right.
We did not. But we know the roof is being used as a college. Literally the day we purchased it, we did walk the roof. There was no indication at that point that it's a problem. And other than that storm where the water sat up on the roof because everything was sealed with ice, no water could leave, we haven't had any issues with that building overall, the roof. Although we've been going through the process, as the report the council saw, throughout the spring, getting infrared laser system report done. So it is not a shock to us that there may be an issue with the roof, but it's still, right at this moment, it's not something, we got to shut that place down. It's not affecting any of the
I agree.
construction of what we've done. It seems to me, again, a social media blow-up of the world's coming to an end, and it is not in reality. It is just not.
I understand the roof isn't leaking now and things seem to be fine. But the question is, we talked about the gym and whether we downsize it or that's decisions to be made later. You just said that we said in the grant about $500,000.
Yes.
The grant also says that we are going to spend, I think, $2.1 million on a gym. So that has gone up, but.
Oh, 2.1 was, with one grant, was the omnibus grant that we got, then another 2.1 on the other grant, the original 4 million. We knew where the building was going to be, the 4 to 4.5 million.
Right.
In general, so
on
yeah.
the
it's
ARPA funds, it says 2.1 for the
for
gymnasium.
one grant and then 2.1 on another grant, which adds up to 6. We're at 4.5. But we were also talking about 500 for the roof, the boiler system, lighting, and some miscellaneous things, so.
Right, so there's all those things that are left, like the parking lot's still on the grant, the renovation of the bathrooms is still on the
Correct.
grant, the wonderful teaching kitchen that's on there. So are all these things going to still be able to get done if we spend $5 million on a gym?
No, if we spend $2 million on a roof, just straight out of that grant, I could say that things are going to be extremely limited if the city's not willing to put something in to cover the difference. But if we're at 4.5 for the gym that we're looking at currently, that's going to be coming to the council, it's not a big gym. I mean, it's not a high school gym. It's not something where it literally is a square gym with no real tournament ability or anything.
It's not like the great gym that's right across the parking lot?
No, it's square. It's 10 foot from the line to the walls. That's what we're building right now.
And I think one of the concerns was, people are harping on that, you said on social media about not a dime goes towards Ratcliffe. It's because they heard that from our council and from the administration that, hey, we're getting all this money, we're not going to spend taxpayer money. That was said multiple times in multiple meetings, so I think that's where it comes from.
Yeah.
They're not making that up. So I can see the frustration. It's there because that's what they heard.
But also, we didn't talk about replacing an entire roof on the 80,000 square foot
I realize
building.
that, but I'm saying.
So if that's the way we go, clearly the cost is going to be a lot more that stretches beyond the grant if we go for full replacement of the roof. But we're getting different quotes that it may be just another layer being put on top. And certainly, as we've seen even the infrared, it's more just one hallway is the issue. It's not the entire building. It doesn't affect the rooms that we've renovated or anything else. It's a
And that
very
was-
small area that's concerned.
That was in February that we had those issues, right?
The one storm, just the one storm, yeah.
And so
we've
when-
gone through 2 rainy seasons and another winter, and we've had no issues other than a spot here and there that that is patched up as we're going along.
So that was February, and this is April. When can we expect the quote to figure out what's going on and how much it'll be?
We're hoping in the next month or so. I don't want to go through
Does it
deep
take-
into the spring.
Does it take 3 months or 4 months to get a grant, or to get an estimate from a
Well, the way
roofing
the
company?
process works is you have to hire someone that's putting the paperwork together first, that's putting the bid out. We can't just call someone and say, just do it.
I'm just asking,
Oh, yeah,
so
no,
people understand what's going on.
No, it's a process. I mean, this is, people say run government like a business. I'd love to in a second, but you have sunshine violations and purchasing policies. You can't just call up the guy next door and say, here, take care of it. We have to go through the
I'm
process.
not asking for it to be taken care of. We
Oh,
can't
no.
call a company and say, can you give it an estimate on this roof, and it only takes them 60
Oh, we've had a couple of generic estimates, and it's gone from 1.2 to $2 million. But that's just a cursory view. But that's not a bid process. We're going through the bid process now. So we're going to have a hard number that we can say to council, here it is. Here's our 3 options. A little bit of the roof, all of the roof, a membrane over the roof, and then here's what we're taking away from that grant that could be towards the gym. We're hoping we could tuck it all in together. It's not a question of, we're trying to do that.
Sure.
But to have it a guarantee, to have people publicly announce that we should not touch a dime,
I understand that.
I don't understand.
So we already put the bid out on our webpage, and we already asked for
I
bids?
don't know where we are with the bid process at this point. So I don't know if it's put out yet,
No, I'm still waiting on specs.
the final.
be
Okay.
Submitted to us to put the bid.
And the
Submitted by
roof is
who?
not something we could just say, here, put out, bid on a roof.
Submitted by who?
CHI or something, a company.
Yeah, so there's,
We're putting the specs together. You can't bid out something. It's not like we're buying a police car with 4 wheels. This is, how do you want the roof redone?
I'm just asking this so that
Sure, no,
we realize that
no,
we're
I'm
being
just saying in
transparent.
general.
So we don't have the specs that happened in February, now it's April, we don't have the specs yet. We're still waiting to even put the bid out? And then how long does it take?
so yeah, once I get the specs, it will go on BidNet. It was posted for 15 days. No, it's about 2 weeks. We get the bids in, then the department will review it, make a recommendation to council, and then council, it'll come to the next available council meeting.
Has CHI given us a date when they're going to have the specs ready?
So my office hasn't received anything from them yet, so.
Have we asked them to do it?
Yes, we're going through the process.
Okay, well, then-
Everything takes time.
I'm
What
just
we're
trying to
talking
be
about is
transparent.
almost for a new roof. It's not put a Duralast roof on there and here's how much square footage. It's not like we're laying carpet. It also goes, if you're ripping the timber off, everything off the roof, they said there's actually 6 layers of roof on that. We know at this point. So if they're putting a bid out, how exactly are you removing it and what's exactly going in play? It's not like just putting carpet, because, and I agree with the councilwoman that the common thought, it's just, what's it take to put a roof on? Like everyone's houses, they just
My
put a new
business
roof
has
on.
the same flat roof, I know what it
This is,
takes.
yeah, the flat roof of that square footage is not the same, so it's a process. But if you go over there and even on a rainy day, it's not dripping all over the place with buckets everywhere. It was a one-time incident that freaked out some people, but it didn't rush us to say we got to do it faster now for the first time, because we were working this in the last 6 months to a year, the process of knowing we're going to have to do something with the roof. But being that it wasn't an issue, it wasn't a rush that we must do it now. That storm opened up our eyes a little more, but since that storm's passed, we're kind of back to where we were before. We're going through the process, but the roof is not caving in or any other concerns that we have over there.
Okay. And then I just want to clarify that the council did not vote for a $9 million bond. We voted to have it put on the ballot so the citizens can decide the $9 million bond.
Correct.
And that's all I have.
Thank you. Councilmember Squires.
Thank you. Don't have too much tonight, but being married to a union man, this is for the retirees, and then losing him 5 years ago, the best gift he gave me were the benefits. So as I grow older, I find I need them more. So I understand where you're coming from, and I'm with you. That's all I have.
Thank you. Mayor Pro Tem Dold.
Got a couple of things. First, I want to start, Mr. Miller, I just want to mention that I am glad to see the DDA moving forward with the military banner program. I know it's been lying dormant since I left the DDA. And Mr. Harvey, you got up and you asked all of us to state our intentions, and I believe that at that first meeting with yourself and Mike Todd, I did state my intentions. I have your back. We're union through and through, and promises made, promises kept. It's been that way from the get-go. Councilperson Earl mentioned that he doesn't think this council plans on doing anything, and he's looking at the next council. I will be on that next council. So regardless whether it hits this council or next council, I will do whatever I can to make sure that the retirees keep the benefits that we made, that we promised you when we promised them to you. It's only right. I also wanted to mention to Ms. Farren that that was my intent also last time when I voted for the bond. I think all of us up here sit, and I know when I campaigned to sit in this seat, my campaign was to speak for the residents of this community. Sometimes that's not my job, though. Sometimes it's your job to speak for yourself. And that's what I did last time when I voted to have the bond put on the ballot. You're all adults. You need to go out. If you don't want this bond, then go out and vote for it, against it. If you want it, then go vote for it. That's your right, and I'm not going to take that away from you. That's why I voted for that. And lastly, as with Councilperson Earl, I am also not receiving emails from our residents. So we'll take that up with our IT people again and see what comes of that. So I do apologize. If anybody ever sends me an email and you're not getting a response, I promise you it's because I did not get it. So take it a step further and possibly contact city manager and let him know to contact me. I will get back with you. That's all I have.
Thank you. Councilmember Lynch.
And just piggybacking on the emails, I get some also, and I don't get others. So I happened to get yours, and I responded. I don't know if there's been others sent or not. So if they have been, I guess I need another copy of it. Otherwise, I wouldn't know that it's been sent. So until we can get the emails fixed, I don't know what else to say about that. And as far as retiree health care, I'm going to refer back to Brian Earl because he said it probably the best. And also the fact that when I retired, I had health care, and I no longer have health care. They took it away from me 6 years ago. So I feel your pain, and all I could say is we're just going to do the best we can to make sure that things stay where they're supposed to be.
Thank you. Councilmember Witt.
I'm going to apologize to the retirees because I'm not very versed in union. I did not come from a union household, so I don't understand a lot of the contract procedures. I do fit with most of what the council has said today, and I'm learning as I'm going through all these meetings and taking it all in. So I'm not in a position to remove health care. You know, my seat's up in November. You know, 3 other seats from this table are up in November. So there's a good chance anything can happen in November. So I'm not looking to remove it. Obviously, more information potentially in the coming months and even after November might make a difference to that. So I don't know. I hope everything stays the same and we can figure something out amicably to get that taken care of. Sorry, last thing left my mind and I can't think of it.
Emails?
Emails. Yes, so I didn't see your email. I might have received it. But a lot of the emails I do receive through the request form show up as anonymous, or from anonymous first name, anonymous last name, no phone number, anonymous@anonymous.com. That is a lot of the emails I receive, so I have no way of even replying to some of these people. I know Brendan sent an email. I did call him back. We had a conversation for 45-ish minutes, give or take. I have emailed residents back that I have received. I'll take a look through my email tonight and make sure if I can find it, I will find it. If not, I will get it forwarded from somebody else who did receive it to look it over. But in my little over a year and a half now, I have received emails and I have replied to residents or forwarded it to the correct area, whether it be DPW, clerk's office, whatever department to get action taken. I might not reply, but I do send it along to the right area. That's all that I have.
Okay, thank you. I just have a couple things. One, to the email issue. I usually do respond to all that I get, and I do get a lot of them. Not all of them, because sometimes I will not know the answer, so I will forward it on to the department head or to the city manager to send off to that department to get an answer. So I'm not sure if I got your email or not. I don't know. As far as the retirees, as you know, Mr. Harvey, from 2016, what I did and voted on, I support you. As a union member, I support you. I am not looking to make any changes with anything. Moving forward, we'll probably look into what we're going to do or how we can preserve it and keep it going. And that's where I stand on that. So having said that, no further business. Good night. God bless. This meeting is adjourned.